Hey, what's up, everybody? This is your boy Kenny, and this is Scandal Season 7, Episode 3, and the name of this episode is Day 101. This was really a good episode, y'all, and I really enjoyed it. Before I get started, let me offer my love and condolences to everyone that was affected by the tragedy in Las Vegas, as well as everyone that was affected by the hurricanes, Harvey, Irma, Jose, and Maria. You know, if you didn't give any relief or support to everyone that was affected by these tragedies, please do so, because our fellow man needs our help and we need to be there for each other. Okay, now on with this review. The episode, this was really like Fitz's episode, so we now get to see what was going on with Fitz the whole time that, you know, Millie has been president. So we see that Fitz arrives in Vermont. You know, there's press and, you know, the paparazzi. Everybody's out there. You know, everywhere he goes, he's getting all this notoriety. We see that he's staying at this really big mansion, and pretty much he goes to sleep. When he wakes up, there's a team of people downstairs, headed by this guy named Tad. And they're pretty much representing the Grain Institute. So the first thing Fitz does is that, you know, and he kept calling him Ted. He's like, no, it's Tad. He's like, okay, Tad, I need you to fire all of these people, and then I'll call Senator Boyd and help him and help you to get your job back. And he's like, what is it? Did I do something wrong? And it wasn't the fact that he did anything wrong. Fitz is now in that stage where he wants to be independent. He wants to have some normalcy in his life, because his whole life he's been catered to. You know, he hasn't had to do anything for himself. So we see Fitz is doing the most. Like, and of course, you know, once you in presidency, you still get Secret Service detail for the rest of your life. So he has Secret Service there with him. You know, we see him jogging, then we saw him driving, and then we saw him go to the store, and of course the paparazzi and everything's outside. He's in there trying to buy some stuff. He didn't have a discount card, so the girl used her card and then gave him an application for a discount card. He didn't even know how to use his card yet. Even that. He didn't even know how to, the damn card wasn't even activated. He didn't even know how to activate his card. Then we saw him trying to cook dinner. He was making this, I think it was like baked turkey or whatever. And you know, we saw like the first few times he failed, but then eventually he got it, right. So we see all of that going on. You know, Fitz is trying to be independent and trying to be his own person. And then we also come to find out that Marcus is on vacation. We actually go to see that Marcus is in Havana, Cuba. He's turning up, having a good time. He's out with this girl. You know, she's a pretty black girl, and she's a black Cuban. They pretty much get together. They have sex. And then the next day, she pretty much says that, you know, I got to go because I got to get to work or whatever. And he's like, girl, why don't you just take off and, you know, come hang out with me? You know, we can hang out at the beach or hang out at the pool, and we can just have us a day together. So obviously he was liking the girl, but she let him know, like, look, where you're staying, because I think they came back to the hotel where she works at, and he was saying that no, the hotel you're staying at, if I come there with you, they will think I'm a prostitute because I'm a black Cuban, and we actually see that racism and colorism is happening worldwide, because there are a lot of black people in Cuba. But you know, and of course this definitely set Marcus, because he's like, what you mean? I'm black too. And she was like, no, you're a gringo. You're a black American. It's not the same thing. You know, I'm a black Cuban, and you know, the black Cubans are not really accepted by the mainstream. And next thing you know, we see Marcus sitting at the pool at his luxurious hotel, and he's actually looking around him, and he sees exactly what she said, that mostly all the light-skinned Cubans are the ones who are working on the staff, and then you got, like, you know, the white customers and all of that, and they're just having this good time, but they're kind of like in this la la land, and there are no dark-skinned Cubans around, so he peeps that. Next, we actually see that finally, Marcus, goes to Vermont to meet up with Fitz. Him and Fitz, we can definitely tell that, they're on the same team, but they're not really seeing eye to eye just yet. And, he's asking, where's your staff? And, Fitz is like, well, I'm independent. I want to do things for myself for a change. And we just kind of see, Marcus is kind of like, okay. And then he starts talking about, because, they're building, they're laying the foundation to build Grant's library. So he's asking, so who do you want certain wings in the library to belong to? I mean, what about Olivia? And then Fitz starts talking his bullshit, talking about something. Olivia had nothing to do with his presidency. I mean, yes, she played a part, but, he became president because of him. It had nothing to do with her. And of course, Mark is looking at this shit like, the fuck you talking about? But then he's also saying, so they're pretty much trying to decide who's going to get a wing, and we need to get more people to actually bring endorsements, because the ones who can lay endorsements, we can actually have bricks with their names on it. So we actually see that next we see that Fitz has this really big dinner, and it's with all of these different what I'm looking for? Prospective donors. And he's telling this story about, and he's telling a story about this, playing on the golf court and all of that, and he's telling this story, and Marcus knows this story by word, because Fitz is up there telling this damn story, and Marcus is literally mouthing the words and everything. And also before that, we also saw that, Fitz was like, you want to go have a drink at a bar? And Marcus is like, okay. So they go to the bar, and they pretty much chat it up or whatever. He's asking questions about Olivia, but then he starts to try to ask questions to Marcus about Millie. So it's cool that they have that. They had that, clean slate, because, he definitely knows about Marcus being with Millie. And he's like, so how was that? And he's like, man, I don't feel comfortable talking about your ex-wife to you. And pretty much, Fitz is like, well, and if anything, we just kind of saw at that moment that, they are getting close. They are close, but they're just not really there yet. So then we got the actual meeting with the prospective donors, and he's telling this same story that he's been telling to nearly every donor that he's met. And I don't remember the story verbatim, but a story about them playing golf, and if anything, the donors love it. So then later on, we see that it's just this senator there along with Fitz and Marcus. Marcus is sitting across, and they're smoking these cigars. He's like, these are some good cigars. And then Fitz was like, well, they're from Marcus. Marcus just came back from Cuba. And then the senator was like, oh, yeah, gracias, chico. Oh, immediately, Marcus knew what the fuck was up. Because we know chico is another word for boy. And all of a sudden, we just saw Marcus' demeanor completely change. And then we see that Fitz kind of plays along into it. He's like, oh, yes, and, this is just really great, and we need to get more whiskey, but dang, I sent all the help home. Marcus, could you go fetch us some more whiskey? Marcus is like, get it your damn self. You want to be independent, don't you? I was like, okay, Marcus, I feel you. I mean, because it could come off that Marcus was being petty, but no, Marcus acted exactly the way he should have in that situation. Because here it is, this dude just literally, degraded him pretty much with racism, calling him a boy, and then you gonna jump on the bandwagon and ask him to fetch you some more whiskey. So yeah, if I was in Mark's position, I would have did the same thing. Get it your damn self. You want to be independent. So after that, Marcus had it. Marcus started packing his stuff up, and next thing you know, him and Fitz, he's packing his bags, and him and Fitz get into it. And it gets crazy because next thing you know, Marcus rips into Fitz. And he was saying that, you know what, you are such a narcissistic asshole, you are white privilege, and you are so far up your ass, you don't even realize how much of an asshole you really are. And then he began to tell him that, first of all, you would not be anything if it wasn't for Olivia Pope. Olivia Pope got you 2 presidencies and literally put herself on the line for you, and yet you don't even want to give her the actual credit in the notoriety that she deserves. You literally rode off of the back of a black woman your whole entire presidency, but this is common because your people have been doing this to us for centuries. And it seemed to me that, you know, here it is, you're being seen as America's hero, but she's being seen as a hoe and a homewrecker. And you actually have the nerve to sit up here and talk about something you independent when yet the whole time Olivia has been carrying you on her back, and you don't want to give her the recognition that she deserves to have. And he was like, you're a real asshole for that. But then also another thing that was going on that I forgot to mention, there's this young protester, I think his name is Steven. He's staying at this statue of this guy named Raymond Sist. Now Sist was a blatant racist. He raped black women. He pillaged the black community. This guy was an all around evil person, and Steve wants this statue removed because he doesn't feel that a person of that caliber should be celebrated within any community. So he's leading the charge that this statue is going to be removed, and what he decides to do is that he's going to sit there and he's not going to move until that statue is removed. So he's placed himself, he's gotten some notoriety from it, but then the crowds are starting to dwindle, and it's starting to get cold, so this boy is literally freezing sitting at that statue. And we actually saw when they were in the bar and they was watching that, Marcus had a moment where he was like, you know, this moment's where I really miss that, being an activist. You know, because Marcus can identify that, because when we first met Marcus was a community activist. And he was saying that, you know, there's a part of me that misses that, you know. So after, you know, Marcus told Fitz off, Fitz began to read Marcus. And he was saying that, first of all, the problem with you is that here it is, you want to be an activist and you want to actually, you know, save the world, quote unquote. You could do that, but you would rather align yourself with powerful people because you want what I have. You want the power I have. You want the prestige I have. So what you do is that you align yourself with powerful people. Olivia, Millie, and now me. So, and he was saying that you're a coward. And this is when Mark was like, you know where I come from? You say some shit like that, you better be willing to back it up. Say this shit again. Yeah. Yes, well, that's what's up. I ain't think so. And then as soon as Marcus turns his back, he's like, you're a coward. And then also Marcus turned around like he was about to do something, and Fitz hit Marcus. But then Marcus hit his ass back, and they was rumbling and tumbling on the floor, and then the Secret Service pulls up Marcus, and then Marcus just had it, and he just left. And then we actually see later on, we see that Millie and Marcus have a conversation, and we can definitely tell that there is still some deep chemistry between Millie and Marcus. And he pretty much, because, you know, we actually see that he actually calls Millie. Millie takes a minute to answer the phone, but she does. And they start talking, and he lets her know that, look, I can't deal with his ass no more. I'm quitting. I just can't deal with it. And Millie began to literally educate him on Fitz. Because she let him know that, look, don't quit, because what you're in right now is stage 2 of your relationship with him. And he was like, stage 2? She's like, yeah, there's stages with Fitz. She said that, look, me and Olivia know it best. Stage 1 is where you're drawn to him because of his passion, because of his drive, because of his, his character. Those things draw you in. Then it's stage 2, which you're in, where he's very narcissistic. He has a big ego. You can't tell him shit. He thinks he knows everything. He says, me and Olivia both been in that spot with Fitz. And stage 2 lasts a long time. And she says, and then you graduate to stage 3. In stage 3, you realize how special he is, and how he has this magic about him, this ability, that he has that a lot of other men don't have. So she's saying that, look, you're going to get to stage 3 eventually, so you just need to wait. You just need to take it one step at a time. Like, don't quit. And we saw that they were literally on the phone with each other for a long time. And I was like, wow, the chemistry between Millie and Marcus is deep. And I think they may end up getting back together again, but just not right now. But yeah, that chemistry is evident. So we pretty much see that while he's gone, Fitz goes into a room and trip this. Rowan is sitting there with a gun. And he's like, close the door. And then all of a sudden, Fitz is like, what the hell do you think you're doing? And he's like, boy, if I wanted to kill you, I would have killed you 30 minutes ago. Shut the door and shut those blinds. We need to talk. And then, and I'm also going to bring up some later, but we got this. So pretty much he closes the blinds, and him and Rowan have a conversation. And Rowan lets him know that, look, Olivia is losing her mind. She is now the head of B613. And all of a sudden this shocks Fitz, and he was like, no, she's not. She's like, yes, she is. She's not only the head of the White House with under Millie, because she's a chief of staff. She's also the head of B613. She has all the power in the world. And then Fitz is like, well, she is the head of B613. She'll do a better job than you. And he was like, oh, you're full of it. Because with me, I at least had checks and balances to how far I can go, and, I did kind of set limitations for myself. And I was like, that was kind of hard to see, Rowan, but okay. But he's saying that when I was the head, when I was command, I limited myself to certain things. Olivia has no limits, and that's dangerous. She is slipping into the dark side, and the only person that could probably bring her back will be you. And she's like, look, I got to make sure I get home, because she's got detail on me. If I'm not home by a certain time, she's going to know something's up. So, yeah, I got to hurry up and get back. But then we literally saw Rowan literally kind of break down to Fitz, and I thought I would never see this, where he literally pleaded, please save my daughter. Pull her back from the darkness, because if we don't pull her back, we're going to lose her forever. She has become completely obsessed with power, and she's drunk with it. And when you're drunk, you can easily slip into darkness and despair. And he literally pleaded with this, that, look, you need to go back to D.C. and you need to help save her. So we saw that go on. So after Rowan leaves, we see that Fitz is outside. Finally, Marcus comes back. They sit down and they have a heart-to-heart. And it was like after they fought, they became closer. And like Marcus, like, yeah, we may share some of the same ideas, but we really don't know each other, obviously. So now it's like, okay, we're gonna like take it one step at a time. So then Fitz lets him know that, look, we got to go back to D.C. But before we do that, we need to handle business here. And what they decide to do is that they go to see the boy Steven, who's been sitting at that statue. He's lost, the audience, and he's just sitting there freezing, so Fitz ends up going up to him, and he's like, and the guy Steven's like, man, I'm just going to give up, because it's like nobody cares, and, and I'm freezing, and I'm literally freezing to death right now, and no one gives a damn. But then Fitz lets him know that, no, don't give up. You're doing what you need to do, and you're doing exactly what you're supposed to do as an American citizen to gain, attention to an important cause. So he comes there with the press. Marcus is there with him. He takes a picture with Fitz, and they post it on Instagram, and it gets over 11 million hits. So what Fitz did was that he gave him the stage that he needed, and what ended up happening is that finally the governor of Vermont finally met up, and they actually tore down the statue. So he left, doing something patriotic, and it was great that they found that by him taking that picture with Steven, opened up that dialogue about what was going on with that Raymond Sis statue, and they finally got it removed. And then it actually picks up where it left off on the last episode, where Fitz goes to Olivia's apartment. Olivia's not there. The next thing you know, we see her coming out the elevator with Steven, kissing all up on him and everything. And then all of a sudden, she notices that Fitz is standing there, and all he says is, hi. And that's where the episode ended. But then also, another thing that also happened in this episode, we saw that Fitz was going through all of his, records and information that he had when he was president, and he came across this gun, and inside the gun, it was a box, and inside the box was a gun, and it had the label, Governor Fitzgerald Grant, and it was a gun that his father gave him, and he had a conversation about this gun, because Marcus noticed the gun, but then Fitz didn't want nothing to do with it. But then later on, he explained to Marcus that gun my father gave to me when I became governor. And Cyrus had told me that once everything ended, as far as the notoriety, as far as the presidency, the notoriety, the crowds, and all of that, he said once that ceased to feast, you're going to want to take that gun and blow your brains out. But then he says, I'm not going to do that. So we're seeing that Fitz is coming into his own, and within that whole, and he let him know about the gun after they had that fight. So now they're getting to know each other better, because if they're going to work together, they need to have that open dialogue. And I think after they fought, they were able to have that open dialogue, and he was able to share some deep stuff with him. So yeah, that's what happened this episode, y'all. If I missed anything, put it down in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And but yeah, this was a really good episode. It was pretty much a Fitz episode, and we now know what Fitz has been up to, and now it's going to pick up where it left up on the last episode, where Olivia comes home with Steven and sees Fitz at her front door. So we're going to see what's going to happen after that within the next episode. So again, that's what I have. So subscribe to my channel. Click that bell so you can get notifications every time I drop a video. Also, I started a GoFundMe account. You can find that link in the description box as well. Also, like this video, comment on this video, and share this video. And I will be back with the next episode of Scandal. So until then, everybody, take care.